it is Cami and Steve. Welcome to another video over here on That's Comical. We hope you're enjoying your helping of the Ice Cream Man Sunday treats as we now enter the second arc of Ice Cream Man by the talented and odd W. Maxwell Prince. Of course, if you're here on a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. This art is brought to us by Martin Morazio and the coloring by Chris O'Halloran. This scoop is titled Ballad of a Falling Man, and it is weird.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Another one of those chapters in Ice Cream Man that I completely forgot about. And then when I pick it up and I read it again, I am without speech. I don't know, what to say about this one. I really don't, Cammy.
I think that perfectly sums it up. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time. No,
in all seriousness,
it's a weird one. It's really hard sometimes to conceptualize into words what you just read. And this is definitely one of those titles. I mean, it's weird immediately from the jump, pun intended.
Very much so, yeah. And I gotta say, it's something that you would sort of expect from this team, especially after reading the first 4 stories of Ice Cream Man. But I gotta say, you always wonder, after you finish each W. Maxwell Prince story that you read, you wonder, can he push the bar even further? And what I also really appreciate about this one is it's visually stunning. And I love how he makes a moment in time that is literally something that lasts a matter of seconds, lasting more than the way it feels. And it sort of harkens back to that cliche moment where your life flashes before your eyes. And the things that go on in this guy's head as he's falling from his jump to end his life are so crazy and complex. And I still think what the most hilarious part about this story is the fact that no one seems to notice that it's happening. Like, there are literally weirder things going on inside the office building as he passes by the floors on his way to his death. It is crazy.
So the man we're referencing, for context here, his name is Bill. He has decided to end his life by jumping off a 86-story building, something of that nature.
I mean, it's building, yeah.
Tall. Yeah, so office building. It does allude that it is on the outskirts of town, which I thought was weird because it looks like it's right smack dab in the middle of the city. But you're absolutely right, Steve. So as he transcends his journey to the bottom, he's telling a joke, first of all, and the joke has to do with a vulture. And so that immediately leads us into a boardroom that he passes where a vulture is eating the brains of one of his coworkers. So we automatically know it's gonna be bizarre. And you're right, nobody notices because there's too much going on inside that boardroom.
But I think what's even funnier is the fact that, in the last couple of times that we've analyzed Ice Cream Man, we've been trying to find certain meanings, certain allegories, certain metaphors within the confines of each story. This one, you're literally just saying, what the fuck is going on here? Yeah. There's no reason why I don't think there's anything. See, the nature of these stories give me the right to curse in these videos because children should not be reading Ice Cream Man, plain and simple.
Please don't let your children read these. And I even caution some adults, be careful as you enter this bizarre world that is the brain of W. Maxwell Prince. I love him because I think he is probably one of the few creators that really just challenges the writing concept and going into the deep levels of your brain, your psychosis, what it would be to both be on and off drugs because I feel like this man has definitely dipped into the LSD at some point, you know.
Either
Um,
that or
but he,
he's just got one of the most creative minds on the planet. We don't really know what's going on in this
yeah,
man's world.
but that it, I mean, he to me is definitely up there in the five top creators of my catalog because just that reason, you're absolutely right, Steve. He's a very unique creator in that we really don't know which direction he's going to take us. And every time, whether you loved it or you hated the ride, it was one hell of a trip and you enjoyed the fact that you were a part of that experience. And I think that is the joy of these, stories that we kind of take in. And I'm so glad we're doing it by the issue because to tell the whole arc of this is really just taking away from these individual stories, and they might not correlate. Sometimes you might see some things that do transcend from one story to another, and I do feel like we do get that character in throughout the inner workings of this particular one that we got at the end of the last story arc, and that's the guy in the cowboy hat. So
Caleb,
we have
Caleb,
this Caleb, there you go. Thank you so much. I love how we just kind of fill in the blanks for each other as we forget things.
there is someone that's actually within the presence of all the craziness on the inside of the office building, and that's Veronica. You want to talk about someone who's having a really bad case of the Mondays? That's Veronica. She is not. Her coworker is on the verge of his death, and she is like having the worst day of her life, and she's not even thinking about jumping off a building.
No, she's just trying to make sense of it all. And I love how we kind of have to get to her name Veronica, Vanessa,
Yeah,
there's
they're
like a
like
gambit of
he's
V names.
trying to figure out. Bill is trying to figure out who she is. He doesn't seem to have any strong feelings towards her, but he seems to feel that there's something about this person that is unique amongst the dreck that is his work life. You know, he
Yeah.
sort of like is saying like she's here, but she shouldn't be susceptible to all of this insanity that is literally happening right in front of her in real time.
Yeah, it's almost like he has a bit of compassion for her, like with all of the crazy that's going on around him. He doesn't seem to have remorse or regrets for saying goodbye to any of these other people, but there does seem to be some sort of connection to her, where there is
Yeah.
some sort of reach out. I mean, obviously to name her specifically by name. And then we get some other oddball characters along the way, like the guy that professes his love
And he was gay.
to
That was the
Veronica.
funny part.
He's gay. And he beheads his lover. Like what? What is
Well,
going on here? And then
the part that doesn't make
I love
sense
how he
about
alludes
that,
to the fact that they could live happily ever after with the severed head. That's just great. I mean,
because
come
the
on.
part in that the part in that moment that didn't make sense to me was, why is his husband's head with him? Do they work together? Has he been carrying it all day? Did he take the subway to work? And how did he bring the severed head with him? Like, did anybody notice a guy carrying a severed head? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah, everyone seems to be a little bananas. So I don't think even if he did carry it to work with him, anybody would have noticed. I mean, the lady in the boardroom, for goodness sakes, she's trying to save her. Veronica's trying to allude to, hey, something's coming, and she just wants her raise. So she sits there and gets her eye pecked out. So it's
Yeah, but I
like, come
think
on, these people are bananas.
yeah, the guy who is sitting in the hallway with like his intestines spilling all out. He
Oh,
says, "I was told there was something inside in the center, like a Cadbury egg." I'm like, yikes! Just
I love
yikes.
I love how as rats are eating his body though, his innards, he's like, "Well, was there though? Was there? Hello, I'd like to know."
But you want to know what's really interesting? It is kind of funny that there is sort of a interesting thing to say about this story as a whole, and I don't know if you got it, but what I really think this is at the end of the day is the insanity that is happening inside the office are all of the crazy ideas and thoughts that are going on in Bill's head as he's about to hit the pavement. Because you notice when he officially is gone and the police are examining the body, Caleb stops the insanity around Veronica and says, "Go home, you're tired." So I think I'm wondering, like, was it Bill that was causing everything to take place within the confines of the office building while he was plummeting to his death? We don't know. But again, that's what makes W. Maxwell Prince the kook that he is and creating all of this writing that everybody knows and loves. That's why I'm so excited for just a couple of weeks, because he's going to be taking on a project that involves Superman. And I am dying to see W. Maxwell Prince bring his writing to one of the most iconic characters in all of comics. And I'm also terrified, wondering what in God's name are you going to do to this character, sir?
I think
What are
it's
you
a
going to do?
perfect time for someone like him, though, to kind of enter that world, because we've obviously seen the whole DC, universe kind of just spin on its head, and we've seen a lot of changes. So I think for him to kind of enter now would be an interesting time. So yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. But I know I completely agree with you in terms of the thoughts that were going through Bill's head as he was descending and plummeting to his death, that these were definitely visual episodes, if you will, of some thoughts that he was having. He did have some real thoughts too. There was some remorse, there was some regret, there was the mention of his marriage, and then he had two mistresses, and his apologies to all three, of course to his wife for even being a cheater, and then of course to all three of them for lying to them at some point. And I think this, can be attested to anybody who's cheated, is that, there is that sense of, if you do find it in your heart to be remorseful or regretful of the situation, you kind of get to a point where you do owe everybody an apology, because you have not and could not have been honest with all three, or however, whatever the number is at any given time, because you're hiding something from all of them. So to see that real portion of him, but beyond that, I mean, it was just kind of those random thoughts. I don't think anything other than that was the only real thing that we got from him, and then just kind of him counting down to the end.
Yeah, but I mean,
Which
you
is
want to know
freaky.
what he's
And
also.
I felt kind of a little anxious knowing what was happening, and I was wondering, is it going to stop? Is this really going to happen? But I do love the fact that we got a blackout. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was curious about is, as you were reading this chapter of Ice Cream Man, did you feel any emotion or sympathy towards this guy? Because the truth of the matter is, I really didn't. And especially when you come towards someone who is doing something as crazy as taking their own life by jumping off of a building, you wonder about, why did this guy do it, or why did this woman do it? But the funny thing is, as you see him fall and he's literally telling you his life story and seeing all the things that he did, it's really weird to say that I kind of felt that to a degree he deserved everything that was coming to him. I really didn't feel any true thoughts of sympathy towards this person.
As a watcher of the series Faces of Death, when I was far too young to watch it, I feel like there is a part of me that will forever have remorse for people that I don't know. And this stands true, I think, even for fictional characters, because everyone on the inside is human. And I think that when it comes to our deathbed, whether it's by choice or by happenstance, I do think that there is a moment of clarity that goes through everyone's mind, where you kind of have a flash of your whole life. You kind of look at it like a storybook, if you will, and you start to pick apart the chapters, the episodes, if you will, however you compartmentalize it in your head. And there is regret, there is remorse, there is, all of these feelings that come up, but then the realization of time. So that for me is kind of what I got as he's descending from this building, is that I don't have much time. If I had to put on the forefront the things that I regret or that I have remorse or any kind of emotion towards, this is it. And really, that's all you got from Bill. I was married, I screwed up, I had two mistresses, I love them all in their own way for their own things. I worked at a really crazy, fucked up place, and now here we are, and it's almost the end.
Yeah,
So
I don't want to
you
work
don't
fast. That's
always
for
get a
sure.
lot of no, you definitely don't. You don't always get a lot of context from people, unfortunately. I mean, we would like to believe that we're going to get a lot more from individuals on their deathbed, like some kind of uh, help to those around us, that this is how I live my life, these are the things I wish I would have done differently. And so in an instance like with Bill, we kind of feel like there should be more lessons there, but there's not always a lesson to be had by some people. Some people are just who they are. And like you're saying, you didn't really feel any remorse or empathy towards his decision. Perhaps that's just who he was. He just wasn't a great person. He didn't have a lot to offer the world. And this was just his way of saying, I'm really a nobody, but here's my 5 seconds of empathy, and I'm really sorry for what I did or any pain that I caused. Thanks for listening, and goodbye. It's life. Life is crazy. It's a crazy journey. It's a weird thing that we live, and we would like to believe that everyone is here for a reason. But suicide is a really hard thing for people to grasp. I mean, whether you are a person who has witnessed it firsthand, if you're a person who has known someone or been the prodigy of knowing someone who knew someone, kind of a thing, it's just a really weird thing to grasp. And so to kind of just think about maybe the thoughts that go through someone's mind that has made that decision, it might be a little bit more complex than sometimes I think we give it credit for. Obviously they've made the ultimate decision that they don't want to be here anymore, whether that's to end suffering and pain, get ahead of the curve, whatever the case may be. So there's not always a hard life lesson, but I do empathize with people in any situation, like that. I just, to make the ultimate decision that you are in charge of your clock, that's a weird one for me. I've always grappled with that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do
And
empathize with him.
so what's very interesting is, even though we don't get too much of him, we do get a little bit of Caleb. And I want to harken back to our introduction to Caleb in the previous issue, where he was basically telling Rick, stay out of my town. And so it was, even though it was very, very short lived, you kind of get what Caleb is doing and what his purpose is. And he basically is the yin to Rick's yang. He, meaning Rick, is the one that likes to cause and create chaos. And Caleb seems to be the one that likes to not necessarily end the chaos, but to keep the chaos in check. Like he says, yeah, things can go crazy, but we're not going to let them go too crazy. Hence the way that he gave Veronica an out from the madness and told her everything is fine, you can leave. But then he starts saying something else, and she's like, were you talking to me? And so he goes, no, I wasn't talking to you. Clearly, we knew he was talking to Rick. So I
Right.
found that quite fascinating that in such a quick amount of time, we pretty much see what Caleb is all about. He's nowhere near as weird and crazy as Rick, but at the same time, we're still trying to figure out what these two guys are and what they're doing here.
Yeah, I would really love to know what the relationship is, how they know each other, how they came to be. Are they of the same caliber? I mean, maybe they're the same person. Maybe it's just, one side of the coin. Um, it's going to unfold. We're going to know a lot more. But in the meantime, I do think his presence is very important, because you do need a calm to the storm. You do need a yin to the yang, because it can't be all chaos and crazy murder time all the time. You do have to know that potentially there is a positive outcome, at least for somebody in the story. In this case, it was Veronica, not for Bill. Bill has chosen his fate, and he is a splat on the sidewalk, lickety split, as he says.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was definitely a nice wake up call to get back into the world of Ice Cream Man. And I am not going to lie, I did actually look ahead to the next issue because I did know that it was in this volume. And let me just say, I am very, very excited to talk about the next chapter of Ice Cream Man. And the reason why I say that is because I'm not going to say I'm not going to spoil anything except for the fact that this is going to be a silent issue. So I love the fact that we're really going to be talking about a book with no words. And I definitely want to elaborate next time on how much I love the idea of the silent issue and that W. Maxwell Prince is one of the gods when it comes to making a silent issue in the world of comics.
Yeah, he was my first exposure to silent comics, and I will say he does it extremely well. So,
Yes, because of Haha issue number 3.
yes, yeah, absolutely. So, with that said, I think we've touched on all the points of this particular scoop of this madness.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Steve, again for joining me. Hopefully, everyone's reading along. We're only on issue number 5 here, so if you haven't started the process again, you can easily catch up before we dive into our next scoop. But until then, thanks so much for joining us. Of course, as always, if you're interested in partaking in the conversation, leave us a comment, ask some questions. Let's get that going in the doobly doo in the bottom. So, Steve, thanks so much, and we'll see you all next time. Take care.
Yep. Take care. It was great to be back.